All right, we're going to review how to rewrite or rearrange literal equations. So, literal equations, as you may remember, are equations with multiple variables that represent something measurable in the real world. For example, this one is something that you all don't know from experience yet, but this is going to be a linear equation. Okay, so that's why, and we're dealing with these because the next unit deals with linear equations. So what we need to know, though, specifically is how to solve for y. So when we say solve for y, often we think, oh, we've got to find a number that y actually equals. So that just this vocabulary in general at the start is confusing. What we actually are going to do is just make sure that we move stuff around so that y is by itself. In this case, 8 is already solved for. See? So all of this equals 8. That's what we've solved for. We haven't actually found a value or a solution for y, but we've moved around the pieces such that y equals something. Okay? So let's get that straight from the beginning. The way we're going to do this is by using inverse operations. Okay? The idea there is we're doing the same thing to one side as we do to the other. We're keeping in mind things like terms are the only things that we can actually combine, whether it's on the same side, simplifying, or on the other side. What we want to remember is opposite operations. Okay, so if you're doing the opposite operation on one side, you can't do a different operation on the other. And let me just say that some of these things are things I've seen students do incorrectly, so that's why I'm putting them up there. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to get y by itself, so we want to deal with this term with a 4x. Okay, we need to get that over here. Now a lot of students go, well, Mr. Small, how do you do that? Because there's no x's over here. So even if I understood that I'm going to make 0 from this 4x, now remember, I'm making 0 here. So though it's a subtraction problem, so to speak, I'm making 0 of the 4x on this side, so I'm going to subtract 4x's. Now over here, I can't subtract and do this and get 4x. That's incorrect because they're not like terms. So what you kind of have to pretend that there's 0 x's over here, which there are 0 x's. So I can do this. All right, this is kind of the first tricky thing about this kind of problem when we're writing literal equations, is that we don't realize we can do this. So after having done this, okay, again, this becomes 0 over here. And notice how I erase that because we haven't dealt with this negative or the 2y. So I bring down the negative 2y and I set it equal to 8 minus 4x. We're not done yet, as again, y needs to be all by itself. Okay? So I need to now, I've gotten rid of one of the variable terms. It's with the constant. Okay, now I need to deal with the coefficient. That's the number right in front of the variable here. This coefficient with y, that is, not with 4 or negative 4. So I'm going to divide by negative 2 here, and that's going to make 1. So that'll give me y by itself. Now, the tricky thing here, too, for students is knowing what to do with this negative 2. A lot of times they'll just divide by the constant. But really, you have to balance all of the stuff. So if I divide negative 2y by 2, I have to divide negative 2. I have to divide 8 by negative 2 and negative 4x by negative 2. So really, the way you write this is kind of like that, so that it shows it's doing it to all of the sides. But what I'm going to do is really 8 divided by negative 2 and negative 4 divided by negative 2. Okay, that's what I'm doing. It's like the distributive property in a way, where you do that number outside the parentheses into both. So then what remains is y equals negative 4 plus 2x. Okay, again, because 8 divided by negative 2 is negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2. Okay, so let me just erase this, and then you can actually rewrite this if you want, right? Keeping the standard, well, this is what's called, it's going to be called slope-intercept form you're actually going to learn. And this is the typical way you write it, is with the x's in the front, the constant in the back, and the variable there. So now we have resolved this, rewritten it for y, and that is all the skill you're doing. I know there's a lot of work involved there. If you go back, you think about, you really had 2 steps. Both of them you just used inverse operations. The first one if you go back, took away 4x's, so you collected the x terms to the other side using inverse. Then you got rid of the coefficient. So it's the same steps, you know, it's just what's different is you're not actually finding a value for y. And there you have it, a little quick review of literal equations. Good luck as you go into today's lesson.